Ukrainian victories north of Pokrovsk in eastern Ukraine's Donetsk Oblast could free up hundreds, if not thousands, of troops who are badly needed elsewhere. It may be too late to save any part of Pokrovsk or neighboring Myrnohrad, but Ukrainian brigades fighting farther south are desperate for reinforcements too. Counterattacks by the Ukrainian 1st Azov Corps since mid-August have steadily reduced a 40 square kilometer salient that the Russian 132nd Motor Rifle Brigade had carved out of the front line north of Pokrovsk a few weeks earlier. The salient bent toward the village of Dobropillia, which sits astride one of the main supply lines into Pokrovsk. Ukrainian units launched a massive wave of coordinated counterattacks along the entire Dobropillia front line to block and cut off the Russian pincer above Myrnohrad. As the Russians were forced to quickly react to the unfolding developments, the Ukrainian command ordered to execute the most important move of the entire Pokrovsk operation. Ukrainian units counterattacked near Dobropillia, combining airpower, tanks and precision-guided munitions in a synchronized strike that put Russian positions in great danger. RFU News media outlet reports. The operation began when aerial reconnaissance detected Russian drone operators setting up in the territory of a local mine east of Donetsk. Within minutes, the coordinates were transmitted, and the Ukrainian Su-27 delivered a precise strike with a GBU-62 JDAM bomb, annihilating the launch site. Moments later, Ukrainian surveillance drones spotted Russian troops attempting to fortify a building on the outskirts of Donetsk. Another airstrike followed, again using a JDAM bomb, wiping out the infiltrators and several Russian officers who had been directing operations in the area, RFU News says. Ukrainian forces used the momentum of the airstrikes and ground units to simulate a massive assault launched from all sides, catching the attention of the Russian surveillance and forcing them to switch focus from offense to defense. The enemy abandoned temporary attempts to reach the encircled units and instead focused on holding the line. Later, it became evident that the Ukrainian counterattack was a well-orchestrated distraction. While the Russian command concentrated all attention on Dobropillia, convinced that the northern flank was the main target, Ukrainian commanders quietly executed a partial rotation of forces in Myrnohrad. This operation enabled the secure evacuation of wounded personnel and the delivery of vital supplies and ammunition to those still defending the town. It was a textbook deception maneuver: create pressure on one sector, force the enemy to divert reserves, and use the gained window to reinforce or extract troops from another direction, RFU News says. This first stage of the plan was completed with remarkable coordination. Ukrainian troops conducted the rotation and partial withdrawal from the semi-encircled town with no losses. The counterattack to the north drew away Russian reconnaissance assets, allowing evacuation convoys to move through safely under electronic countermeasures. Part of the soldiers were safely extracted behind the front lines, while the remaining defenders in Myrnohrad resupplied and prepared to hold the new line. At the same time, this was not the only distraction for the Russians. While the Dobropillia counterattack tied down their reserves, they were also forced to maintain focus on Pokrovsk, where Ukrainian forces continue to hold the enemy south of the railway line by constant clearing operations against Russian infiltrators. This persistent defense, the main objective of Ukraine's Pokrovsk operation, is working precisely as General Syrskyi planned. The ability to withdraw, rotate and evacuate forces from Myrnohrad would have been impossible if Pokrovsk had fallen or if Russian units had broken through north of the railway. Ukrainian troops are thus not only defending two towns, but coordinating between them in a way that keeps both strategically viable and linked through controlled logistics corridors, RFU News claims. The latest events around Dobropillia, Pokrovsk and Myrnohrad reveal a multi-layered Ukrainian strategy to continue the Russian advance. transform Myrnohrad into a fortress and force Russia into another slow, attritional fight that costs thousands of lives for minimal territorial gain.
The UN's top human rights body held a one-day special session Friday to highlight hundreds of killings at a hospital in Sudan's Darfur region and other atrocities committed last month by paramilitary forces fighting the army. According to Associated Press, the Human Rights Council also debated a draft resolution calling on an existing team of independent experts to carry out an urgent inquiry into the killings and other rights violations in the city of El Fasher by the Rapid Support Forces. The atrocities that are unfolding in El Fasher were foreseen and preventable, but they were not prevented. They constitute the gravest of crimes, said Volker Turk, the UN human rights chief. Last month, the RSF seized El Fasher, the capital of North Darfur, and rampaged through the Saudi hospital in the city, killing more than 450 people, according to the World Health Organization. Turk said there has been reports since the RSF took control of the city, of mass killings of civilians, ethnically targeted executions. Sexual violence including gang rape, abductions for ransom, widespread arbitrary detentions, attacks on health facilities, medical staff and humanitarian workers, and other appalling atrocities. The military and the RSF, who were former allies, went to war in 2023. WHO says the fighting has killed at least 40,000 people, and the United Nations says another 12 million have been displaced. Aid groups say the true death toll could be many times higher. The draft resolution, led by several European countries, offered little in the way of strong new language, though it requested a fact-finding team that the Council has already created to try to identify those responsible for the crimes in El Fasher and help bring them to account. Much of El Fasher now is a crime scene, Mona Rishmoi, a member of the team, told the session. A comprehensive investigation is required to establish the full picture, but what we already know is devastating, she said.
Mr. President, Excellencies, the atrocities that are unfolding in El Fasher were foreseen and preventable, but they were not prevented. They constitute the gravest of crimes. My office has issued more than 20 statements on El Fasher alone over the past year, based on information verified by our team. We warned repeatedly about the strangulating, suffocating siege under which people were reduced to eating animal feet and peanut shells. We warned about the spread of famine as people starved to death.